Welcome to the Age Group Multisport podcast, the podcast that allows age groupers to share their stories. Hiya and welcome back to AMP with me, Richard Conway. Thank you for taking your time out to give us a listen. Much appreciated. Hope you're all well. If you were racing at the weekend, I hope it went well. And I hope your training's going well for your races to come. On this episode, we have a legend, and it is Joe Lewis.
So through Reading Roadrunners, I was aware that a couple of them had been in the GB age group.
All right. So
And
that was the first time you come across GB age group then?
Yes, it
Even
was.
back then, before you'd started your first triathlon?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, if they can do it, and these were females, I can do it.
And that's exactly what she did. Now nearly into her 70s, and she's going into the 70 to 74 age group. What a wealth of knowledge and experience that Jo's got. From starting a local swim club when her kids were young, to starting the Tri 50 coaching business that she still runs today. She's been coaching for 41 years, and it's great to hear how that all came about and the wealth of knowledge that Jo's actually got. We had a great conversation, and along the way we talked about strength training, how important it is. We talked about warming up properly before every training session. We discuss sleeping and how important Jo finds it is for recovery, and she gets an hour during the day sometimes to help her recover. We discuss HRV and resting heart rate, and I've met a kindred spirit in Jo about cold water. So that's all coming up. We're now well into race season, and there was several races on at the weekend, and the first one was a qualifier at Southport, and one of my teammates went over there to qualify, and he came first in his age group. So well done, Steve Hunt. We're yet to get him on the podcast, but watch this space. Also racing at Southport, previous guests were Karina Kaufman, Nikki Dick, and David Pearson from Age Group News and My Tri Ranking. Donald Brooks was at it again at the Nottingham Outlaw, where he finished first in his age group. And finally, previous guest on the show, Ben Goodfellow, was at Ironman Lanzarote, racing in the pro ranks, and he finished fifth. What a result that was. So well done, Ben, and well done to everybody who's raced this weekend. If I've missed you, do apologise. These races are coming thick and fast now, and I'm trying to keep up with the previous guests that we've had on. But yeah, go back and listen to their stories. Really, really fantastic stories, all of them. And this weekend coming up, we've got the Duathlon and Sprint qualification race over at Darley Moor. And I'll be up at the track supporting Mrs. C, who's going to try and qualify at that event, as well as teammate Steve Hunt, who's just qualified at Southport last weekend. And I haven't yet looked at the field, but I know there are a few previous guests that are going to be there and try and qualify as well. So if you see me loitering about with me AMP cap on, walking our big hairy dog Betty, come and say hello, and good luck if you're racing. Hope you smash it. A couple of podcasts to recommend. The first one is a bit left field. It's called Ask a Cycling Coach, but they had a mountain bike athlete on there, and they were talking about fitness plateaus, tapering, doping, and quite a bit more. And it was quite interesting, especially the tapering and fitness plateau. We were talking about that from a nutritional point of view and carbing up. Interesting theories on those subjects, so give it a listen. And one bit of fun I was listening to while I was working was the Triathlon Mockery. And Tom had been racing over in Lanzarote. I think it's his first race back for a while. I think he finished 15th, but very funny, talking about Tom's chafing around what he calls the Scrooge, and Joe's endless pool that he annoys his neighbours with. So yeah, that was very entertaining as usual, very funny. Nice to see them just not take it too seriously and have a lighter side of pro triathlon. And I just got a message this morning from our AMP Next Gen young athlete, Harrison King, who has successfully qualified for the Sprint Duathlon World Champs in 2025. And obviously, it's a lot of money to get himself to that event and pay for all his kit and everything else. So he started a crowdfunding page. So I just wanted to make people aware of that, and if they could head over to Harry's GoFundMe page, and if you could donate and help him, that would be awesome. So please have a look into that, because we all know that it ain't cheap to go to these events, and especially if it's your first one, you've got to get all the kit as well. So yeah, give Harry some support in whichever way you can. Much appreciated. Okay, time for the main event. I hope you enjoyed Joe's story, and we shall see you on the other side.
I'm Jo Lewis. I'm fast approaching the 70 to 74 age group. I have been fortunate enough in doing sport all my life, from a very young age at school right through to now. Whilst I was at school, I preferred to be on the hockey pitch or on the cross-country circuit rather than actually studying my books. So I went to a school in Bath where I spent 7 years, and I had the wonderful experience of hockey, netball, tennis, rounders, hurdles, and then became games captain, I think, for various things. I left school and I didn't go to university because I didn't wish to go to university, but my sport continued with squash. And for many, squash was the way forward. It was a way of making new friends, and I loved my squash days. And that took me right up to the time when I got married and had 2 boys, and so I would take them cycling. They would cycle and I would, whilst I ran. And then I decided in my wisdom, because I loved the outdoor life, that I'd set up a swimming business. But obviously I didn't have any of the qualifications that were required. So I went off to the ASA and got my qualifications. And before I knew it, I had set up Ducklings to Dolphins swimming club, which is still going now, 35 years on. And I was so proud. We had 400 pupils coming through a week, had 10 teachers who worked alongside me, and it flourished. But it got to the stage where the boys became teenagers, and of course they required mum to be around a bit more, especially at the end of the day after school, to supervise the homework and get them to their school clubs. So I sold my share of the business, and I was still swimming at that stage. And I started to get a little bored. I suppose it was the humdrum of swimming, teaching, and it was teaching in those days, and always being in hot environments. And people kept saying, why don't you become a runner? You've just the build for a runner. Oh, no, I haven't got time. No, I haven't got time. But at 45, I decided, well, I'm going to start running. So I joined Reading Road Runners and realised that I was actually better than I thought I could ever be. And in my 47th year, I was running 5K, 19 minutes, and I was running a 10K in 41 and a half marathon, 1 hour 30. And I thought, oh, I might as well take this a bit further. So I obviously entered lots of half marathons and events, and was known within the area for being a good runner. And so I still carried on my swimming, but just did that when I had time. But I just thrived on the running, and still am very friendly with all my Reading Road Runner friends. So we're going back, 30 years now?
Yeah.
Anyway, my father, being a doctor, he said, I don't like you doing all this running. You're going to have bad hips and bad knees. And I said, oh, Father, I just love it. And then I listened to him, and I just thought, okay, I'll take up cycling. Not being a good cyclist, but cycling as a kid along the towpath, had a white bike, I remember. So I took up the cycling, and I remember entering my first triathlon in 1994, and it was at Bradfield College. And I thought I was the bee's knees. I could swim, I could run, but my cycling wasn't brilliant. But I thought, no, come on, persevere. So I did. And before I knew it, I was then thinking, I think I ought to become a running coach and a triathlon coach, because if I can't demonstrate and give something back, then I'm not being the sort of person that I am, because I love helping people. So off I go, and I fast tracked from my swimming coaching to level 2 and enjoyed that, got a huge amount of that out of that. And then I decided to do my level 3. Well, that was a different kettle of fish, wasn't it, in 2010. At this stage, I'd also set up a second swimming club because people knew where I was working and they enjoyed my sessions, and I had a reputation to live up to. So I then got into the triathlon coaching and travelled and enjoyed what I was doing. And I was on the third weekend of my level 3, and I was sharing, we had to go away for weekends in those days, and I was sharing a room overnight with a German lady, Beata. And I just one evening said to her, Beata, there has got to be a niche for Tri 50. There's got to be a niche for setting up business for coaching over 50s. Well, that was it. We set it up between us. And before we knew it, we had athletes coming to us, and we were taking athletes abroad, and we had working, with weekends away. And it has just boomed, and it's not got to the stage where it's so big, because that's not what I wanted, and that's not what Beata wanted. Beata then had, for personal reasons, had to come out of the business. So I've been on my own, and I've managed. I do have the support of my partner, who's a level 1, so he can assist on occasions. But generally, I do it single-handedly. I keep the numbers down to a level that I can manage. And my swimming coaching is still my forte. So I think 85% of my work is coaching swimming, because people of that age generally either haven't been taught as a youngster or have a real fear. And that's where Joe comes in. So I have had so many people coming through my hands, and it's just been wonderful to see them transition to them being able to go on to do a triathlon.
Yeah. So just going back to when you first started triathlon, your first one back in 1994. How did you find out about? Was it just some local race? How did you find out?
The reason I found out was because my son was at the college, Bradfield College.
Right.
So he had come home and said, "Oh, Mum, there's a triathlon," and I went, "Okay."
And had you heard of triathlon before?
Yes, through my running club.
Right.
Yes, through Reading Roadrunners. That's a very good point. So through Reading Roadrunners, I was aware that a couple of them had been in the GB age group.
All right. So that was the first time you come across GB age group then?
Yes, it was.
Even back then, before you'd started your first triathlon?
Yes, it was. And I thought, well, if they can do it, and these were females, I can do it, surely, because I love a challenge.
Yeah.
Probably too much for a challenge. But I knew it was my cycling that was going to let me down. I could swim and I could run well. So I then thought, well, you've got to put more time into your cycling.
Yeah.
So as a coach, I then was able to lead cycle sessions and sort out group rides. I had Joe's tri team on a Monday for the ladies only. And then I had another tri club for swimming, and I did a Friday evening swim and run. So I was really involved in all of that.
So how did that progress though from your first triathlon? Obviously.
Yes, because in 2004, I went to Madeira. That was my first one. And I remember thinking, this bike's going to be horrendous. I'm not going to enjoy the bike. I can't remember where I was placed, but I think I got the last place on not the roll down, but I can't remember how many, was it 15 we had then per age group, something like that.
Yeah.
And then 2005, I went to Honolulu. And in those days, we had team managers, we had team captains for the age groups. And because of who I am, I said, I'll look after the 50 plus. And we had a ball, an absolute ball. I just remember it. We all worked together. I was able to help them with their swimming and able to help with transitions, those sorts of things that I don't take for granted, but I just knew people would want my help. And those friends have stuck with me. for the last 20 years. And then I was first for the Brits and that was the year that it changed where sprint came in. So it was standard in Honolulu. And for the aquathlon, which I did, it was run, swim, run. It wasn't, you swim and you run. So it was the proper format. And I flew, I medaled there. And then 2006, it was Lausanne. And I became world champion in aquathlon. And then I can't remember honestly can't remember the medals that I accrued. 2008 was Beijing.
Yeah.
I won silver in both aquathlon and sprint triathlon. And then from there, it was Auckland. Can't remember where else we went. I'm not being smart here. I honestly can't remember.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'm just looking at the years, actually. So you started your first try in 1994. And you obviously went nearly 10 years before you tried to qualify.
For the age group, yes, because my children were still teenagers, and I just wanted to make sure that the youngest one, who was a little bit not off the rails, but a little bit wild, should we say, just needed a little bit more maternal support. My husband was away a lot, traveling, so I wanted him just to make sure that I wasn't away when he was wanting to go off and drive a car and do the things with his friends that perhaps I wasn't very happy about. So it was a case of being mum. And now, of course, that relationship with the children changes, doesn't it? And now they do things with me that I never thought they would want to do, marathons and ultras, etc. So yes, it took a little while, but my cycling improved. But then in 2008, I was in Cologne, Europeans, and I was doing cross country alongside, and my knee started to niggle. And the consultant said, "You're going to have a knee replacement." And I said, "No, I can't." He said, "It will change your life." He said, "You won't be able to coach at the level and you won't be able to compete." And I thought, I can't have someone telling me that. So I then said, okay, I'll give up my running and I'll go and focus on my cycling. So Aqua Bike started, which year? 2017, wasn't it? Penticton. So I qualified or put my name forward. I can't remember how we did the first event. And I medaled. It was long distance. So it was 3K swim, 120K bike. And I just loved it. Absolutely. I was in my element. And I thought, yes, I've got my swimming where I want it. I've got my cycling where I want it. It's taken years. I'm going to continue. And so I continued. And then, of course, we had COVID hit.
Yeah.
So I then continued my cycling, wasn't doing any running, and then took up my strength classes. I thought, yes, come on, get yourself really strong, which is where I still am now. And I have been doing Aqua Bike since, and have medalled Romania. Where else? I can't remember where I've been. Bilbao. Where else?
So many.
So many, yes, so many. Anyway, I'm still there. But then I had a thought. I thought to myself, I'm going to try running again. I'm strong. My quads feel great. My glutes are okay. And so I started running.
I was just going to ask.
Yes.
You were saying about your issues with your knees and the doctor, and at that point, were you doing any strength exercises?
No, in those days we weren't.
I thought you were going to say to me, so I said to the doctor, "You're not going to operate, and I'm going to start doing strength work." But that's come a little bit later on.
It has, and I think when I was running, in late 40s, early 50s, we just went out the door and ran.
Yeah.
And until I became a coach and learned about dynamic and static and the different forms of running, what sort of training you should be doing, periodized, etc. I just thought, well, I'll just carry on running. But of course, your limbs catch up, don't they? And one knee just didn't like the camber coming down a very steep hill. And I knew I'd done something. And I just thought, well, you're going to have to either give up your running or take it really easy. So I had 3 arthroscopies, and the knee was okay. But as I started my strength, I then realized actually I should have been doing this years earlier. And what I say to people now is, please do your strength twice a week. And if you don't know what to do, come and find me on Try 50, because we're doing them every week throughout the year. I don't give up a week generally unless I'm too far abroad. So so the strength work came in, and then I realized that by doing the strength, I could pick up the running. I've picked it up. I did my first part run in 6 years 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
And I didn't disgrace myself. I ran it. Wasn't pretty. And I just thought, well, there's room for improvement here. I'm going to qualify for next year. So I have a qualifier to do. I haven't chosen which one yet. I'd just like to get my time down closer to 30 minutes than closer to 35. My swimming is good enough. I know it will get me through. I've always been the strongest in the swim. So I will give it a go and see if I can replicate 2006 when I'm when I'm 70. Who knows? But yes, the world's your oyster. I think if you're keeping injury free, keeping a healthy lifestyle, and enjoy doing what you're doing, you have no reason not to be able to continue. And it's my athletes who inspire me, but also motivate me, because I think if they're doing it and they're similar age to myself, then I should be doing it. Come on, get out there and give it a go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%. But you're right what you were saying about running and warming up. I think people and we've got some in our club that they're set in the ways that we'll go and do a track session, and before I've actually said to them, now we're doing some dynamic. I'm not a coach. The coach takes it, and he was as bad as the others. He's been a runner all his life, and he's never warmed up other than do a couple of laps of the track. And I'm saying, look, we're all getting on. It's not good enough. I said, we need to do some dynamic warming up. And I said, we need to stretch afterwards. And I said, they need to be put in place, and we need to be doing it every session.
I think we become lazy, don't they?
Well, it's not even lazy. I think it's just about educating.
Do you think it's purely lack of education?
Yeah, they've always just gone out and run. They've never done anything they've never done any dynamic warm-ups and as you're getting older, I found it myself. If I just go and do 2 laps of the track, especially if you're doing speed work, I'm gonna pull something. And that's where it got to. And I just said, no, come on, we've got to look at this, because we're in our club. We're an oldish club.
Older dynamics. Well, that has to come from the coach, doesn't it? The suggestion, but also realizing and indicating what the benefits are, and that's what my job is. Might not want to do it, but we are going to do it, because then it becomes.
I think it just becomes routine then once you've set it in place, and everybody now. I started doing it on my own, and then there was a couple said, yeah, we want to do it as well, while the others were just warming up like normal. And then the 3 of us just said, come on, we're all going to do this. And, now it's just become normal. It's what we do before we start running. And it
should be the same for cycling and for swimming. Those shoulders have a lot to do, our backs have a lot to do in the pool. But I think for swimming, I always say that swimming is going to be the last sport that you're going to give up, because it's something that you can do for rehab. You can do my aqua jogging to help, for my running. And if I have a niggle, which I seldom do, it might just be because I've done too much in my classes, then I'll get myself in the water and just really use the water to ease out any tight muscle groups. But I take stretch and flex every week, and then send those recordings out to people just to encourage them to do it. And they always say, oh, I feel so much better for that. And I go, well, there you go.
It's just creating that habit, isn't it? Again,
yes,
I do yoga on my own a couple of times a week. Just get up in the morning and just do 15-20 minutes, and I've done it for several years now, and it's just
and for your job, that's so important as well.
I mean, I do, it does help. It definitely helps.
Must do. And I think it's realizing that we can't just leap out, or I can't just leap out of bed. I'm much slower starter now. So when I'm taking a class at 7:30, I have to be up at 6:30 just to loosen myself up, ready for the session, because I might be a little bit creaky. I'm not sore, I'm not in pain, but I'm just that little bit not as flexible as I used to be. Yes, and I think working on the flexibility. But also, you when your body's tired, And my motto in life has always been, and I'm notorious for it, is my sleep. I sleep for England, I sleep for Wales, I sleep for Scotland. I will go to bed in the day for an hour and just fall asleep. And
Yeah.
I just, yes, wake up and I feel great. And yes, I'm still in bed at 10. So I do believe people go, oh no, I can't sleep in the day. And I go, just give it a go, because sometimes, I don't know about you, but
Yeah.
I love my bed. I have to get into bed and then I'm out. I'm crotchety when I wake up. Yes, I might be, but I'll have a piece of fruit and a cup of tea and off I go again. And I do believe that there's no point in giving in to sleep, just I agree, sorry, with giving in to sleep and not ignoring it. I think the body needs it, and perhaps I'm just one of those. My mind is always spinning, thinking about my athletes, etc. That I then think, no, go to bed.
Switch off.
Switch off. Yes.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, sleep's become such a big thing these days. At the end of the day, it's where we recover
Yes.
and
And
where
people
the
don't
body
realize it.
repairs itself.
Mm-hmm.
So why would you not want to get, a good, and I mean, I don't just mean amount of time, but I mean like good quality sleep. And these gadgets that we've got these days, I use my Garmin, and it'll tell me the next day what type of
Yes.
sleep I've had, you know, the
How
REM,
much in the deep
the
sleep,
deep sleep, and the REM,
REM,
and
and
the light
yeah.
sleep, and the wake times, and it's just such good information. And I
Mm.
know now that when I wake up, I know before looking at the watch whether I've had a good sleep or a bad sleep, because you're
So you know
that
what
in
sort of
tune.
mood you're going to be in, don't you?
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
you're that in tune with how you've slept. But it's just so important to get quality sleep.
And not go
And
to
as
bed.
far as your nap goes during the day, I think I'll come in after you know a day's work in the garden, and I'll maybe sit down and do yoga nidra for 20 minutes, which is basically listening to somebody and you're drifting off, and it just revives you so much. And 20 minutes, it's invaluable. So I'm with you on that, and I think it's really, really important.
Because if my athletes, their metrics, if they're getting less than 5 hours sleep a night, then okay, there's no training coming up for the next week. You really have to allow your body just to rest.
Yeah,
It's
you do.
you're not going to be effective to yourself, or you're not going to do yourself any favors. You're not going to get to the start line of that race you want to do in a month's time
Yeah.
if you're so fatigued. You're depriving yourself of sleep. Obviously, you can't say how to sleep. You go, well, use a sleep app, whatever it is. Switch off from work. Do not do your mobile stuff so late at night. But it's got to come from them, hasn't it?
Sure.
As a
Yeah. I
coach.
mean, there's loads of information out there, isn't there?
Yes,
There's
exactly.
no excuse anymore. You can just, everybody's aware of being able
Dangers.
to find out and how to make your environment, so you're getting some quality sleep.
Sleep.
What about HRV? Do you do that with
I do
your
use
athletes?
that sometimes. I'm not a big fan of it because I think depending on if people are using Apple or Garmin, the athletes who work with Apple, I don't really rely on that information coming through from
Is that the
Apple.
Apple Watch?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and I think Training Peaks is trying to work things out better, but there's so much misinformation that's coming from the watch onto Training Peaks. And yes, I use Training Peaks with athletes and for myself, obviously, whereas Garmin tends to be a little bit more reliable.
Yeah.
But when it comes to information that I'm looking for their resting heart rate. So once a month, we will go through resting heart rate, and I'll ask them to evaluate it over a week and take an average, and then we can see if it's dropped, which will indicate that they're getting fitter.
Sure.
So we tend to use that as far as technical things. The more that you put on them the technical side, the more complicated it comes. And sometimes I just say, this week you're not going to run with the watch. Oh, but I have to run with the watch.
Yeah.
And they go, no. What happens if your watch malfunctions in an event? You're just going to go crazy. So let's just try a swim with that. Let's go purely on feel, which you should be doing anyway. And running, you can go on feel. And cycling, yes, you've probably got your cycle computer there anyway, but they don't like it. But actually, we learn so much about ourselves when we don't have all those gadgets to keep our attention diverted. Focus on your form rather than your pace. And then suddenly it sinks in and they go, oh, yes, you're right. Yes, okay.
It's one of those, though, isn't it? It just takes time for people to understand and get used to that, because we're all looking
Yes,
at
and then you
and
get
watching it all
flustered
the
when it's
time.
not working or the
Yeah,
battery's suddenly gone. Oh, I must charge my. Well, it doesn't matter. Let's just go on feel. And you
yeah,
know if you're how your breathing is when you're running as to how tough the pace is. So let's work it out that way. And I think we get too wrapped up in it. Being the age I am, and I obviously, yes, I have my Garmin and I love it. And my eyesight is good enough. And many people at our age don't have the good enough
yeah,
eyesight to
yeah,
see
yeah.
what
You're right. Yeah, yeah,
stats are. So what good is it? Yes, I think we become too wrapped up in it, and then it diverts us from the technical side, especially in swimming, which is so technical, and people don't understand how many years. You think your swimming is okay, and I'll assess a stroke, swim smooth, and I'll go, okay, we are going to have to spend some time on your stroke. This is what I'd like you to do. But what people think they can do is then just go into open water and learn the technique that way for front crawl. And I'm going, open water is such a difficult and different scenario.
yeah,
You cannot expect to improve your stroke in open water when you've got so many other parameters to think about. So I always try and encourage my athletes to have one session in the week where it's pool-based, and then like now we're coming into open water season. There's lots of events coming up, aren't there, or have started. But being older, being more mature, we feel the cold more, and I'm inundated with open water inquiries, and I'm going, I'm not getting in the water until it's 18 degrees.
I found a kindred spirit then, because I'm exactly the same. I was looking to do an event this weekend, and I just looked at the temperatures of the water. I thought, no, I'm not doing it, because it won't be fun and I won't enjoy it. The water's like 12 degrees, 13 degrees. I mean, it might have warmed up a little bit now with the last weeks of weather, but I'm like, no, I'm not. I don't want to do it. I don't want to get in the water unless I'm going to be
That you're going to
happy
get,
swimming.
yes.
What's the point?
Ponce around on the side and they go, come on, Joe. And I go, no, I can't do it. I really can't. And that's the way I've become. So this is my last year for open water coaching, because I just know I can deliver, but if I'm cold, I just switch off. I'm good for 42 minutes, I've worked out. Then my body goes, no, you've got to get out. But I have a thermal wetsuit. If you haven't got a thermal wetsuit, invest, because it does make a difference. So I've got one of those, and then I wear a base layer underneath. Obviously, when I'm competing, I have to compete in the same way as everyone else, but I wear arms, my cycling arms under my wetsuit, and just hope for the best. But yes, I do feel it far more. And so my athletes, I can understand, unless they're really well endowed, they're going to struggle with the temperature. So yes, I think swimming is that scenario. If you're not a strong swimmer, then you are going to come undone on the cycling and the running. And when I've raced and then taken time in transition, I've probably lost a podium place because of I just feel the cold. So I can't cycle if I'm cold.
Yeah.
So yes, it's. I think that is one adverse sign of maturing years, of not being able to hold the warmth. But hey, we're still doing what we're doing, and provided we can still.
I think that's the beauty of multisport, isn't it? It's like you saying you couldn't run, so you found Aqua Bike.
Aqua Bike, yes.
And that's the beauty of it, isn't it? There's so much out there for us to do. If we're not strong at one thing, or some injury stops us doing another thing, you can go and do a couple of other things. You know what I mean?
Yes,
there's always something to do, isn't there?
There's always something, and then you can come back to that, which is your limiter, but still not have lost your base fitness. You've still got the right approach. You still mentally, you still know that you have to learn the skills to improve. It's all about skill sets, isn't it? For us lot. And as I said before, swimming is the best rehab. But we'll be doing swimming when, I'll be swimming in 15 years' time. I know I will be,
Yeah,
because it's so beneficial.
yeah. And it
It's
puts no stress on the body either, does it? So that's why we
no,
can continue to do it. So
provided you're swimming, your technique is okay, and you're not, crossing the centre line and putting too much stress on the shoulder, or swimming breaststroke with your head up. And there are, for so many people doing wild swimming who then want to come into open water swimming, eventing, which is lovely. But again, they're probably having to start with their front crawl. And I say, to become a really good swimmer, and people don't like me saying it, but I can assure you it is the case. It will take 8 years to become proficient in every swim condition. And when I was listening to Anna swimming in Mexico, I was there. I'd just cycled Land's End to John of Groats with my 2 sons. It was my 60th year. And my knee wasn't happy. I know what I can remember. And I was thinking, well, I'll still do the event. And we were swimming. And as Anna was saying, that the current was taking us back. And I just went into the race thinking, well, I'm here. I'm not going to be able to run very well at all. My knee's not happy. So I then went back to watch the more mature people, and they're all being taken out. And I just thought, this is awful. They hadn't factored that in. And they were just saying, you can't continue. And you're going, that's just so sad. You come all this way to Mexico and you're being told you can't continue. How come?
yeah.
But yes, the swimming. And I think people think that if they can swim, they're going to be fine in the sea. And I always say, if you're going to do an event, build. You don't want to have a bad experience and then that puts you off. Start in a river, start in a reservoir where it's controlled environment before you get into the wild and woolly sea. But one day it can be super calm, and the next day it can just be throwing rubbish at you. You just go, no, I can't do this. And you go, because you haven't got the experience. So I say 8 years, get that experience, and then you're fit and can face anything that's thrown at you by the water. And we have to respect water, did we not? It's not one of those things that you can just nonchalantly say, oh, I can do this. I've been phased, and I'm a really strong swimmer. But I can remember Lake Bala having to do breaststroke because they reduced the swim. I'm thinking, I'm in a triathlon and I'm doing breaststroke, but everyone else was.
Yeah.
And you just go, oh, well, that's the way it is.
That's the way it is, yeah.
Yes.
Those are the conditions you've been dealt, aren't they?
Yes, you've got to be able to know that you can do a different stroke or head up water polo.
Yeah.
So I think swimming, for many triathletes, is their nemesis. And I can understand why, but also providing them with that insistence, instruction that it will take much longer than they realise. They must have that patience to crack it and go 2-3 times a week, 20 minutes at a time. It doesn't have to be more than that, just enabling that feel of the water and building up the volume gradually, as opposed to, all right, I'm going to do Ironman, I'm going to go off to Mexico and do Ironman, and then it all falls apart because the swim they can't get through the swim, and then wonder why the bike and the run are so tough, because they've expended all their energy in the swim leg. Sort your swimming out, and then your cycling and your running will actually just follow on through. It's I can't say it often.
No, you're 100% right. I say that on this podcast time and time again.
Oh, you do?
It's
Okay.
just so technical. Swimming, I mean, I'm not the greatest of swimmer. I've been swimming, well, since I started in 2010, and still not fantastic technically. And then you put open water in, and I've swam in the sea and I've swam in lakes and stuff. And it's just a totally different environment. And it's hard. And you've just got to be consistent and be persistent.
Yes. And relax,
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's relax. I remember doing we did a sprint triathlon in Redcar off the northeast coast, and it was absolutely horrendous. It was that
I had
bad.
2 athletes. Wasn't that where they had the jellyfish as well?
Not this year. It was just really, really. It was blowing a hoolie basically.
Oh, was it?
It was that bad they had to drag some of the canoeists out.
And of course now you get to these events and they cut out the swim because their safety, their risk assessments.
Yeah.
So in my coaching, with my coaching hat on, I'm going, just be prepared, because it might end up being a duathlon.
Yeah.
So in our training, we must think about duathlons as well as triathlons. You know, can you run before you cycle? And make sure that they are prepared. How many events last year
Yeah.
became
And I
duathlons?
think, it's not just health and safety. Well, it is, I suppose, but in a different way. It's the environment and the water quality is the thing that's
Yes,
stopping events more than anything, isn't it?
it is now.
They're worried. I think they're worried about the Paris Olympics, not
Yes, not the
not going
safety.
ahead as a triathlon, aren't they? So yeah, I mean that's happening all over the world. So you're right to,
I think
get
an
your
athlete.
athlete to
Well,
do
it
it.
is. You know, just take that away to your club. Just say, prepare yourselves
Yeah.
better. Because, and for aquathlon, you know, in Portugal, they're saying, oh, it will be run, swim, run.
Mm.
Well, it can't be for the 60 plus because we have 2 degrees, unless it's very, very warm. We have 2 degrees more before we are non-wetsuit.
Yeah, yeah,
So, but again, I've said prepare yourselves
yeah,
at least to do that. And if you're prepared, I'm prepared. So
yeah.
we just do it in your training.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
um, I think it's just been interesting. And I've actually said to my mature athletes, I'm not happy about you doing anything that involves the Thames, River Thames, like Windsor, all there, the Henley Festival, etc., down in Oxfordshire, because the Thames has been earmarked for being one of the worst with the sewage issue. So you
Mm.
go, because if you get a bacterial infection, it's not going to knock you out for 2 weeks, it's going to knock you out for 6 to 8 weeks. So please do
Yeah.
not do it. So that they have, you know, I've given them that advice and they're all heeding it. So it's go and find another one.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
haven't spent £110 on getting poorly about. Um, so yes, and I think as we mature, we're more sensible about our approach to racing. You know, some people got a race one weekend after another, and you go, when do you have time to train? Because you're either recovering or you're tapering for your next event. And I'm going, but I suppose when we're young, we can just do that, can't we? Whereas no, I think twice about how many events I have and how
I
space.
think eventually it catches up with you. You know, you might be able to go through a phase where you're doing that, but eventually down the line, it's gonna get you.
You get you, and then you think to yourself, am I mad? But no, I suppose with maturity, I do sit down with the athletes and we plan their next year, and I'll give them advice on what I suggest they do, and generally we'll always work on their limiter to start, and then build that back into events towards the end of the season, so they can reap the rewards of their training. And had the real pleasure of athletes taking me with them to events, you know, to Australia, Spain, France, where I've been able to support them
Mm.
to the start line. Not competing, I can't compete and coach.
No.
I either coach in my role professionally or I compete. And that's really what I'll be doing in my 70s, is competing rather than coaching. I think
Yeah.
that's
So just you've mentioned about coaching, and do you just want to give your uh, company a plug
yes, try
at the
50. So try
moment?
50, yes, it's very much geared for athletes fast approaching 50, males and females, male and female, transgender. I haven't had any transgender yet, but I'm happy for them to come through. And so I focus very much on November and March. So November, I take athletes out who perhaps haven't had a good summer season with their swimming as part of triathlon, or they're finding that their swimming is letting them down when it comes to triathlon. So we do a swim and run camp in November in the warmth of Lanzarote.
Lovely.
And then I do the same thing in March, but then I prepare them for open water. So we're doing pool swimming every day, technique, bang on about technique, and then we go into the sea, and then they learn the open water skills and just get wetsuit conditioned for when they come back for their events in May. So we had a great week. The weather wasn't brilliant in March, to be fair, but it was great for the sea conditions because it was controlled, you know, it was coached, it was supervised, we had safety, etc. November, it really is revisiting all those gremlins that perhaps they've established over the summer and require some help, but also support from the other athletes. I always say it's great. You get a group together and you can let them go through their life stories. I'm there to facilitate and go, okay, this is what we're going to do, but this is what we're going to work on. And then I've taken on board everything everyone's said, and we nail it, and then they go away, hopefully happy bunnies. So Try 50, the only organisation that specialises in that age group.
Yeah.
My oldest athlete is 78, and my youngest is, I think I've got a couple of 48ers say, can you help us? And I go, of course I can. So,
excellent.
And then bespoke coaching, I do, 365, 24/7. That's a different ball game altogether.
And can people find all that information on your website?
Yes, it's all on my website. The camps aren't, November is detailed, but people can email me through Try 50 and I always get back. And I'm happy to help people during the year if they really have got a weakness or a fear. That is my skill set is very much on that. I can help them overcome anything and everything. I can't say there's no one who I haven't managed to get to a start line. It might take time, but I do it. But that's my skills.
Excellent. Well, congratulations with finding that, above 50s age group, and focusing on it, because it, like you say,
it's very difficult in clubs. People say to me within the club environment, they might have a run session, but they really haven't factored in that the mature people require a longer warm-up, a longer cool down, or perhaps they can't do the number of reps. They really have got to structure the session for all age groups. You can't expect a 70-year-old to be doing what a 40-year-old is doing. It just won't work. And many clubs, the people get demoralized and disheartened because the coach is probably much younger. There aren't many female coaches of my age, I think, still coach, coming up to 70. But I've been coaching 41 years. I've had my share of, I've given everything into my coaching.
You have,
I've been lucky. I've been in the right place at the right time.
Well, you make your own luck at the end of the day, and you've put in, you get out what you put in, don't you? And
you do, Rich.
You've obviously done that.
Yes, you do. And I've made mistakes along the way. I put my hands up, yes, but I've learned from athletes. I might have done a particular strength exercise that perhaps was too much for some of them. And then I take that away. You have to be quite self-critical when you're on your own. I do rely on athletes to tell me if there's something they don't like.
Two-way street at the end of the day, isn't it?
It is. It has to be. Yes, if it's one way, you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't get any, if you don't get any feedback from your athletes, then how what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong.
Are you in the job that you're in?
Yeah.
That's what I say.
Yeah. Well, that's a really nice story. And I've got a few quick-fire questions.
Oh, yes, please do.
Just to finish off with. But before we get to those, the first one I like to ask is, what does a week of training look like for you at the moment?
Okay. Well, so I'm in the build phase for Portugal.
Yeah.
I'm so this week I have swum and run. That was Sunday. Monday I did all my classes. I had 3 strength classes. But that was off the back of Sunday as well, of 6 hours. Sunday, 6 hours in the garden. So I was quite tired, if I'm really honest. And then Tuesday was a rest day. Yesterday, I managed to get out on my bike for an hour because this weekend I'm doing 100k sportive in the Chilterns. Nice. So I know that I've really got to be solid for that, but wish to do it as a continuous cycle, no stops, in readiness for Portugal. So with that in mind, I've done my 3 hours of classes today. Tomorrow will be a stretching session. I'm on a train for 4 hours going up to London. And then Saturday will be my rest day, prepping my bike, and then I'll do my 100k on Sunday. So it's a slightly different week.
Yeah.
I'm only running twice a week at the moment, but because of this week being a sportive, I've only done the one run. Because I just don't want my legs to feel so hammered, because we've got, I think, 5,000 feet of climbing in this sportive. So I know I'm going to have my work cut out.
Yeah. 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 Well, that sounds really good. And good luck with your sportif at the weekend.
Oh, it'll be
Hope it goes
fun.
well.
Yes.
I hope it's not. We're just getting the nice warm weather, but I hope it's not too hot because that's
Oh, it's we've got
kind
some
of the,
serious hills, but they're in the cool of the
yeah.
Chiltern, so
That's good.
be
Good.
what it will be.
Yeah.
Yes,
Excellent.
so that's a typical week would be swimming and running and doing all my strength work. Yes, it's always a full week. I always look forward to Friday because I think, oh, I've got 3 days off doing strength training.
Yeah.
It's
Brilliant.
tough.
So, first quick fire question is, what's your favourite bit of kit?
I'm going to say my swim hat and goggles. Sorry, too.
No, it's all right. It's fine.
I love swimming
So, what are they? Why do you like them so much?
because they make the swim the swim. If your goggles are poorly fitting, it's disastrous. I like my head to be warm, especially in open water. I wear two hats,
Yeah.
always, and even in the pool, I wear two hats.
Right.
I like to feel cozy.
Have you got any special hat? Is it what
I
type
have
of
my
hat is it?
Tri-50 hat. I have a silicon hat. I'm not
Silicon.
wearing
Yeah.
neoprene in the pool. No, I just have my two silicon
Yeah.
Tri-50 hats. And then in open water, I have a neoprene bonnet with
And
my
goggles.
goggles. I wear Zogs,
Dogs. Yeah. Yeah.
clear lens at the moment, but I'll go for the polarized for Portugal. But I will check them that they're okay before I go. Always take two pairs of goggles with you to any event.
Good tip.
Yes, swimming. It's my running shoes. I've still got them from 2018 when I gave up my running, but I have to invest in some new ones. Not that they're not worn, but
Yeah.
they're probably better cushioning now. So I will
Cool.
my run shoes.
What resources do you use for your own training? And it could be books, could be videos, could be anything really. What you go, and you've got such a wide knowledge base now and experience that you
Oh
probably don't
no,
need
no, no,
anything.
no, Rich. I always say the day you give up learning is the day you hang everything up.
Yeah.
So if I haven't learned from a triathlon for myself, I shouldn't be competing anymore. It might be a very small thing, but I should learn and take something away from every event. So I read a lot when I'm not asleep. I will go on to podcasts. I enjoy my podcasts when
Yeah.
I'm.
Any favorite podcasts you can suggest?
I listen to Simon Ward. I
Oh
like
yeah, he's
his
good. Yeah.
podcasts.
Yeah.
I learn from those. I learn from books. I'll pick up the 220 magazine and find some interesting articles, specifically, well, especially relating to women, because I feel that women of my age, we have the HRT issues, post-menopause.
Yeah.
I like to be in the know. Fortunately, I have a son who's a doctor, so I can pose questions of him.
Mhm.
But I feel that I should be able to share my experience as an athlete with those I work with, because they're mostly younger than me. I've only got two female athletes older than me at the moment. Yes, everyone else is younger. So,
Yeah.
so yes, I do enjoy my magazines and books, and also listening to other people. I think talking and conversing, you can learn so much, can't you?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
100. That's
Yeah.
and it's little. I say little things. This week was a classic where one of my class ladies said to me, "Joe, I'm really struggling with push-ups and planks. My wrists are so weak." Now she's a swimmer, and I took on board what she had said, and I thought, I just take it for granted that my wrists are that strong. They must be from swimming and from everything that I've done in my life. So I immediately thought, right, next session, we're going to do purely wrist strength. So I found out every exercise possible on wrist strength. So I went to the resources, found them, and we've done them, and we'll do them again. Because I
Yeah.
just thought, how often do we spend on
Yeah.
our wrists?
Yeah.
Yes. Feet. People have feet problems. I haven't ever had a foot problem. I've never had. The only problem I've had in my life is my knee. I've
Yeah.
never been in hospital. I've been so fortunate.
Yeah.
And I put it down to just being physically robust but resilient, nothing more. But feet problems, I haven't got that experience, but always say, okay, I have to deal with it, because you need your feet for running, you need your feet for cycling. So I love learning from other people as to what physios and specialists have said to them. So I think we can learn from one another, definitely.
Yeah. And what advice would you give to anyone wanting to get into triathlon?
Of any age.
Yeah, well, no, let's take it to the over 50s, because that's that's where
Okay.
you're at. So
For the over 50s, I'd say start off small. Try not to be too ambitious. I think many a person will phone and go, I'm doing an Ironman. Can you get me to the start line? And you go, so what have you done before? I haven't done anything. Okay. All right. So shall we not just come back a few stages and perhaps build? No, I just want to do an Ironman. Okay. It's going to take you several months, and what's your home life like, etc., your professional working life. And I think people, they hear a word Ironman and they think it's the be all and end all. And I go, I'm sorry, it isn't. By all means, aspire. I've never done an Ironman. I have no desire to do an Ironman. Done a marathon, done 180 on the bike, whatever, long swims. But I also say, enjoy what you're doing. Otherwise, it becomes a slog. And then you do an Ironman, and then you switch off the training. So start small. Thus, overcome any injuries, get yourself resilient. And if you're doing any event, make sure that you're capable of the environment that you're going to be racing in. Is it going to be really cold if you're going abroad? Is it going to be too hot for you? Choose your locations, because triathlon is so expensive now, isn't it? Is it a safe place to go?
Yeah.
Can you get your bike there without having an issue? And if it becomes a non-wetsuit swim, how are you going to fare? I think all those questions, just really consider. And I'm Mrs. Sensible. I know I am. People say you're too sensible, but that's me as a coach, I suppose.
Good advice, though. Good advice.
Yes.
And finally, before I let you go, what are your short and your long-term goals?
Well, my short-term goal is to qualify in a Aquathlon for the 70 age group next year. That's my short-term goal, together with Portugal next month.
And what are you doing in Portugal again?
I'm doing Aqua Bike, so I'm doing 2 and 90. So I'm doing standard, and I would like to qualify again for World Aqua Bike, because I just loved that time in the saddle. I love the swim, provided it's in a warm country. But it's going to be in Australia next year, so I've got to pull my finger out and get myself sorted. So yes, those are my long-term goals.
Is that standard as well for the world?
I'm not sure about. I don't know if it's standard. And to be honest, Rich, I can't answer that question.
That's all right. It's fine.
But the Aquathlon, yes, I would like to be. I'd like to be able to return to it and say, you can overcome adversity through strength training, and doing the right strength training, not just doing anything you feel like doing. And to be able to keep going. I think if I can carry on through my 70s, I'll be a happy bunny, because I'll be able to do things with my grandchildren. So, and my children.
Yeah.
Yes. Cool. I think that's the motto for life.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you ever so much for taking your time out. And
not at all, Rich. Thank you.
It's been wonderful to meet you. And like I said, you're an inspiration. You know what I mean? It's just, you do inspire, although you don't want to hear that, I know. But that's people like you just inspire people like me and everybody else that is into this multi-sport world, I think. And this is the whole purpose of doing the podcast, to try and inspire people.
Yes, if it means someone's teetering on the edge and they're bordering on 60, I go, give it a go. You've got nothing to lose. Find a good coach, find a good club, come to Try 50. You'll learn lots, but also you make friends for life. And the friends I've got are friends I've had 25 years. It's been wonderful.
And that helps with your longevity as well, having that social connection, because that's really important.
Oh, so important. Yes. Otherwise we stay cocooned, don't we? And then also you want to run with people, you want to cycle with people, which is the fun part. Swimming is a bit different, isn't it? It's a bit antisocial.
It is a bit, yeah. But you can still, before you get in the water, you can still have that environment.
Yes.
When you get out as well, Yeah.
Yes, it's a
Great. Well, I'm not going to hold you up anymore.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
plenty-
You enjoy the rest of your day.
It was lovely to speak to Jo. Such a lovely lady with such a wealth of knowledge and experience, and so successful as an age grouper. What more do you want from a guest? And if you're over 50 and you'd like some coaching or just general advice, you can get in touch with Jo on her website, which is try50.co.uk, and she's on Instagram under the same name. So yeah, get in touch. Thank you once again for listening, and if you would like to come on and be a guest, please do get in touch in one of the social media sites, or you can email us and I'll give you all the addresses in a moment, because we are now currently looking for our next round of guests. The next episode is our 100th and it's got a special guest. I thought it was only fitting for this person to come on and share the story, because without this person, none of this podcast would be possible. So look out for that one. If you haven't already, please go and have a look at our YouTube channel and subscribe. We've got loads of videos on there for various different things. All our podcasts are on there. We've got a few videos from previous guests, and mainly it's just me sharing what I'm doing in training. So just check it out and give us some support. That would be much appreciated. And finally, if you'd like to get in touch, you can by email at agegroupmultisportpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram at amp_1967. We're on Facebook at ampgb. We're on X at Age Group Multisport Podcast, and YouTube is ampgb. So thanks once again. Please subscribe, share, follow, recommend to your friends, and we shall see you next time. And don't forget, stay safe, keep training, and love the process.